Setting up a business or CIC and how to register yourself for funding in the UK. Sally Wood. Sally is a consultant finance director who loves working with fast-moving, ambitious businesses, particularly startups, scale-ups, and businesses undergoing major changes. After spending several years as finance director at the multi-million-pound high street retailer HMV, in 2019, Sally established her own business, Sally Wood Consultancy Limited, to provide senior finance leadership and consultancy services. Sally works with businesses on a part-time, project or ad hoc basis and uses her extensive experience to ensure resilience in her clients' organizations, helping them overcome challenges such as business planning, cash flow management, and cost-based restructuring. Sally also acts as a non-executive director and board advisor to several businesses.
Over to you, Sally.
Thank you. Thank you for that amazing introduction. So welcome, everybody. It's really great to be talking to you today and to share a little bit of my knowledge, as far as I can impart in about half an hour, about some of the things you need to look out for when you're setting up a business or a community interest company, and I'll touch a little bit on funding. So I'm just about to share my screen. So if you can bear with me for one moment. Hopefully you should all be able to see my presentation slides now.
It says yes, we can.
Excellent, thank you. Great, so there's a lovely picture of me. There's me in real life. So as I say, I'm going to talk to you about setting up a business or community interest company. So before we go into any detail on this, I want to talk to you about your thoughts on this, about whether you could be the founder of a business. That's quite a big conversation to have with yourself. So many of us have got ideas, we've got passions, we've got things we'd actually love to do, we've got skills, knowledge, experience, but taking those and actually turning it into our own business can be an incredibly daunting prospect. People have preconceived notions of what a business owner looks like. They think it's the kind of person you see on Dragon's Den or The Apprentice or the elders in the village or the senior people in the town where they grew up. They don't always see people who own businesses who look like them. They might think they're too young. They might think they're too old. They might think they're too female. They might think they're too unconventional. They might think they're too black, too white, too gay, too straight. They might just not fit the mold in their own mind of what a business owner is like. And I was really pleased when I saw the agenda for today that the person who's going to pick up the baton from me, Matty, is actually talking about imposter syndrome, because that is a huge barrier to people opening their business. They don't think that they can cut it. And sometimes you've actually got to walk the walk and try things for yourself to build your own confidence in it. So what I want to do today is to give you a framework, give you some facts. This is particularly about the UK, but some of the things I will talk about will be relevant in any nation in terms of the thought processes you need to go through to set up a business. So let's have a look at the next slide. So the first question to ask is, where on earth do I start if I want to set up a business? How do I actually get from having an idea in my head to actually having a real life business with me as the founder, with me as the owner? And I think it's important to acknowledge that this can just feel like, it can feel like a mountain. It can feel overwhelming if you don't plan carefully and you don't put the foundations in place. So I'm going to talk you through 7 key stages I want you to consider that will really help you in preparing to start a new business. So the first one is about doing your market research. So you might have an idea, but you need to understand, is that an idea that you can sell to people? How are you going to differentiate what you do from everybody else who's out there offering businesses and services? What's your unique selling point, your USP? I'd also like you to think about what your ideal customer looks like. This is a strategy that marketers use all the time, whether you're designing a product or service or finding the best way to market yourself. Give that person a name, draw a picture of them in your mind. Think about what their hobbies are, their ambitions, their passions, their hopes, their dreams, aspirations. What is the problem that your ideal customer has, and how are you uniquely positioned to solve those problems? And another important thing to do is to undertake what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what are your strengths? What are you good at? Why could you set this business up? What are your potential weaknesses or the gaps in your knowledge? As a business owner, you're expected to be everything to everybody. You're expected to be chief accountant, chief marketing officer, head of logistics, head of supply chain. You're expected to be everything. You're the public face of your company. Think about what you can do yourself well and what you might want to draw on experts to help you out with. Think about the opportunities that exist in the market you want to go in with the product or service. Think about how you might be uniquely placed to address those opportunities. And don't forget about the threats. Who are your competition? What are the things that could go wrong for you? Just make sure you've really considered all that before you go any further. Let's move on to stage 2. Once you've got that idea, you might want to look to register a business. And at this point, I am talking very much about UK legislation. And there are 4 types of different company that I want to highlight to you and just explain how they work. So the first one is being self-employed, which is also known as being a sole trader. The second one is running a limited company. That's what I do myself. The third one is having a partnership. And then finally, in an area that is very interesting to me, is a special type of limited company called a community interest company that's created for a social benefit. So let's look at each of those in turn. So being self-employed, or being called a sole trader in the UK, is a fairly light touch type of business organisation. It's relatively easy to set up. You don't need to register anything with Companies House. You just need to register yourself as a self-employed or sole trader with HMRC, with the tax authorities, particularly if you are anticipating earning over £1,000 a year through your business. You can keep all the profits after any expenses and any taxes that you have to pay. However, one thing to note with this kind of business is that you are your company. In the eyes of the law, there is no distinction between you and your business. So if it all goes horribly wrong and you have debts or losses, you are on the hook for them. That could ultimately mean that your possessions, your home, your car, etc. are at risk. So that is something to bear in mind. So it's a very simple structure, but it's not without risks. The next structure in the UK that I'd like to explore is a limited company. So my own company is called Sallywood Consultancy Limited. The clue is in the title. This is a more formal kind of company structure. It's registered with Companies House, who are the government body who oversee and regulate limited companies in the UK. A limited company will have one or more shareholder. In my business, I'm the only shareholder. And you can keep the profits after expenses and taxes, and you can choose how you pay yourself through your limited company. You can pay yourself a salary, you can pay yourself a dividend, or you can pay yourself a combination of the two. And having a good accountant to advise you on that is really important. The big difference between having a limited company and being a sole trader is that your company is a separate legal entity to you as an individual. So if your company has losses, if it has debts, they are not the same as your own personal debts. So you are not at risk of losing your home, apart from in certain circumstances. However, there's a lot more admin. There are many more rules to follow, and it's more expensive to run. You have to pay an accountant to do a proper annual return and file accounts for you with Companies House in a certain format. They need to do a corporation tax return, which requires certain software. So It's a more expensive option. The third type of structure I'd like to talk about is a partnership. So partnership is more like being self-employed, but it has more than one person or partner. I know, for example, a married couple who I do some work with who have a partnership. They are joint partners in their business, but you may choose to do it with a business partner. It could be an alternative to a limited company if you want to keep things a little more simple to start with. Again, it's registered with HMRC, and the partners in the partnership share those profits after all expenses and taxes. Again, the risk is that those partners could be both or severally held personally liable for any debts. And the final structure that I'd like to talk to you about, and it's a relatively new one in the UK, is what's called a community interest company, or a CIC. This is a kind of social enterprise. It's a special type of limited company that has community or social objectives at its very heart. So it's registered with Companies House and needs to follow very specific rules about community interest. So it's not there to generate a profit. Yes, as the owner of a community interest company, you can pay yourself a reasonable salary, but ultimately you have to prove and you have to report that what you are doing is for the greater good of the community. And if there are surplus profits, you have a not-for-profit organisation or a charity where you will distribute those surpluses to. So let's move on to step 3. This is thinking about your branding. So what name are you going to trade under? What's your logo? What's your branding? What's the look and feel of your business? And do you need to trademark anything? And one of the things I will do later on is signpost you to some of the help that's available, and the business and intellectual property centres, which are part of the British Library system through the UK, are fabulous for helping and advising with trademarks. Step 4 is to create a business plan, and this is quite a scary step, and this is one that a lot of people hide away from and bury their head in the sand because it seems very, very scary and it seems like a mountain. But if you don't create a business plan and you're not clear about what your plan in your mind is, how on earth are you going to articulate it when you're talking to the bank about opening an account? You're talking to potential lenders, you're talking to potential clients in some cases. So a business plan is all about articulating in a document the objectives, the strategies, how you're going to deliver sales, marketing and financial forecasts for your new business. So it's a really important stage and it is worth doing properly. There are lots of templates that are available on the internet. You can find one as a structure and guidance notes. It's a really important stage. You may want to bring in a business advisor or a consultant who can help you with that. And again, I will signpost you some of the free resources that are available in the UK to help you with that process. Next one close to my heart. This is all about money, this conference. This is all about finance. It's finance, finance, and I'll say it again for the people at the back, finance. So there are many things you need to think about when you are a business owner that are financially related. One of the most important is actually setting up a business bank account. I've seen people who have just merged their personal finances and their business finances, and they've got into all sorts of horrible mess. Legally, it's really not a good idea. If you have a formally registered company with Companies House, you definitely need to have a business account. But it's incredibly good practice to keep your personal and your business finances separate. You may need to think about accounting software. If you've got one of the more formal companies or you're not particularly strong on finances, you might want to think about finding an accountant who can hold your hand and guide you all the way. And you'll also need to think about looking for startup finance. And again, I will signpost you to some places where you could look for that as well. Next stage is to think about whether you need business premises and what insurance you need to have in place. So I'll use myself as an example. I'm a consultant. I run my own business. I don't have premises. I work a combination from home, from my clients' premises and remotely. However, one thing I really do need to have is insurance, because I give people advice And if I give them advice that they're not happy with, or I give them wrong advice, which happens, we're all human, I could potentially be sued. So I need to make sure I have what's called professional indemnity insurance in place. If you have business premises, so if you have an office or a shop or a workshop or a warehouse or whatever type of premises you have, those premises need to have business insurance. If you deal with the public on a regular basis, you need to have public liability insurance. So don't underestimate the importance of this stage. I'm always quite scared when I meet people who have been running businesses and have no kind of insurance in place. They don't have any safety net, and that scares me deeply, and I don't want anybody to be in that position. And then step 7 is to think about your online presence. So it may be important to you to have a website, especially if you're using that to sell things, but a lot of business owners start off with creating their online presence on social media. So that could be on Facebook, that could be on LinkedIn, which is a fabulous resource for business owners. It could be any of the other social media channels. It could be YouTube, it could be TikTok, it could be any of them. You can also use Google to help promote your business, and Google have some amazing free resources. If you look for Google Garage, they have some great startup free programs for new business owners, which is fabulous. And you may also want to look into the possibility of being able to take online payments. So that could be something as simple as setting up a business PayPal account or a Stripe account, just so that people can send you money remotely rather than having to do bank transfers. It all makes things easier for your potential clients. So I'd like to talk to you now about some of the support that is available to new and aspiring business owners. So if you scrape below the surface in the UK, there's actually loads of free support out there, but a lot of people don't know about it. So I'm going to talk you through some of the different supports that are available out there. So your local council will probably have either an economic development or a business support team. So if you're in the UK and you get a council tax bill, look for the name of the council on that council tax bill and Google the council name and business support. So I live in West Northamptonshire. So if I Google West Northamptonshire business support, there's an amazing array of free advice and support for aspiring business owners and for people who've just set them in business. Everything from how to register a company, how to access training. In some cases, they can signpost you to funds that are available for grants, etc. So that's a really good place to start for free advice. In the UK, there's also a network of what are called local enterprise partnerships. I believe there are 38 of them across the UK. Where I live, covering Northampton and Milton Keynes and the wider area, we're in what's called the South East Midlands Local Enterprise Partnership. Again, they offer all sorts of free business support. They have local growth hubs, they're called, which are aimed at stimulating the local economy and helping businesses to either get off the ground or to scale and grow. So they often offer particular training programs to help businesses develop skills that might not come naturally to them. They can often help with things like creating business plans. They can signpost you to grant funding. And again, they do all sorts of events that are aimed at just getting that information out there to those businesses. I mentioned it earlier when we talked about trademarks and intellectual property, but the British Library Network in the UK run an amazing series of events through what's called the BIPC, which is the Business and Intellectual Property Centres. So it's part of the Library Network. Who knew that the Library Network in the UK offers such amazing business support? But again, they have some fabulous business advisors who can help you with resource, with research, with trademarking, with registering your company. So have a look. I'll share some resources at the end. I'll also share my contact details. I've got links to all these addresses so we can find those. Another thing you can do is to look for what support is available through the UK government. So if you Google business support UK government, there's a plethora of resources available. And again, I can share a lot of those with you. Things that people just, if you don't know where to look, you don't always find it. And then there are business support organisations. One of them is the Federation of Small Businesses. I actually have a volunteer role with the Federation of Small Businesses in the UK, particularly supporting businesses in Leicestershire, Northamptonshire and Rutland, which is where I live. And they have some amazing resources on their website, many of which are free to non-members. You can go on there, you can find out about setting up a business. There are all sorts of podcasts and webinars and things that you can access. And the amazing thing that they do is run free events as well. So that's a great resource to tap into. The aim of the Federation of Small Businesses is to level the playing field between the small businesses and the big corporates. So we also do a lot of work to represent the interests of those small and new businesses in the UK with government, with local authorities, with the people who make the decisions. And we offer a lot of business support services to our members to help them get the same level of support that big corporates have. You'll also find in most UK towns and cities, there will be a Chamber of Commerce that reflects very much the local business interests and will promote those. So that's definitely worth looking into as well. Okay, let's move on to a brief overview of how you can access funding. So many people, when they're starting the business out, they fund that business themselves through their own savings. That's exactly what I did. So I spent, as Tendai said at the start, I spent many years in a corporate environment. I took voluntary redundancy and I used some of my redundancy package that I'd put into my savings to establish my own business. Not everybody has those savings though. So you might go for what's affectionately known as friends, family and fools. So this is where you may have a relative or friend who is keen to invest and support in your business. That can be a great option, but I would caution you to make sure that you have an agreement in place, because this is how friendships and family relationships can break down. So it can be a wonderful option to fund your business, but don't assume that you're always going to be friends. So just be a little bit careful with that. You may have a relationship with an existing bank, or you may have set up a business account. They may be able to arrange a business startup loan for you. And in the UK, there's also an establishment called the British Business Bank, who offer startup loans of up to £25,000 to new business owners. However, I would warn you that those loans are to you as a personal individual and you are personally liable for them. They lend to the business owner, not to the business itself. So that's just something to be a little bit aware of. If you're looking at a community interest company, there is grant funding that may be available. So through, for example, the National Lottery, there are some amazing grants that are available. You have to jump through some hurdles. There are certain criteria you need to meet, but there are grant fundings available. There's an organisation called Unlimited who have a particular focus at the moment on supporting social enterprises with a Black and ethnic minority heritage. So that's something that if you're interested in a community interest company, that could be really relevant to you. Again, the Federation of Small Business have a funding platform to help its members access different types of finance and funding. So there are lots of different options out there. So I'd invite you to ask any questions. I can see there's loads of things in the chat actually. But if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer them. I'm also going to put up my contact details on the next screen. And I've also got a special offer that I would like to extend to people who are here today. I'm very cognizant of the fact that if you are thinking about setting up a business or you're in the early stages, cash is a premium. So I've come up with a package that I think is a very cost-effective package that if anybody would like to contact me, I'd be very happy to help them. So I can offer you an hour's virtual consultation with me for £36, including VAT, or half a day's virtual consultation with me for £120 with VAT. And if you'd prefer a face-to-face consultation, then we can discuss that separately. So I've put my email address, I've put my LinkedIn connections on the screen, and I've also put my WhatsApp contact details on there so that you can contact me and let me know anything you like to. So let's have a look. So Nigel has asked, what is the best type of company to set up as a contractor? That's a really good question, Nigel. I'm going to assume that you're based in the UK, and you may well not be. As a contractor, the landscape has changed massively. So the government is trying to clamp down on what it considers tax evasion by self-employed and contractor people. So if you are running a limited company and you are providing your services to another limited company, they have a lot of criteria, and HMRC have got a huge area on their website about making sure that you are tax compliant, and you have to answer various different questions as to whether you are an employee or not an employee. So it's a difficult one to come up with a definitive answer, Nigel. It absolutely depends on your circumstance. I would say, depending on the level of your turnover and the type of business that you have, a limited company may be appropriate. Being self-employed may be appropriate, and it may also be appropriate for you to work through what's called an umbrella company, which is a kind of organisation that will deal with your tax affairs for you and help you manage those as a contractor. So I know that's quite a broad answer, but it's a very specific question. So hopefully that will give you a few pointers, Nigel. What else do we have in here? Do we have any other questions? Let's have a look. So much help available. Absolutely. Everybody can see in here, frozen. Brilliant. If anybody has any more questions, I'm very happy to either take them now, or if you'd like to get in contact with me through any of the means that I've talked about, you're very, very welcome indeed. And if not, I will hand you back to Tendai, and that means you are bang on schedule again.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Sally. That was so informative, clear, concise steps on things that one needs to do once you decide that actually, you want to go and start a business, you want to go ahead and, position a service, a gap that you've seen out there in the marketplace. I said we are coming out of this wealthy. We are accessing our wealthy place during this conference. So thank you so much. That was so informative, so clear. And guys, let's get in touch with Sally. Yesterday, we talked about networks. Many of us are still waiting at the bus station thinking there's no one who's going to come and help me. Help has come. If you were getting stuck on how do I need to do this, for an investment, or an hour investment of £36 with somebody who knows, and say, right, go and do this, go and do this. Sometimes you need someone, an accountability partner who will say, have you done this now? and get off the mark. So thank you so much. That was really, really awesome. And you hit on so many points that are so important to tackle as we step out there, and just watch out for even the things to look out for. I think a lot of people are like, "Ooh, I can see that happening as well." So thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone for your lovely comments in the chat. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to have to leave you now because I've got family commitments, but thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been wonderful. And I look forward to catching up on all the other speakers when they're recorded.
Awesome. Thanks, Sally. Take care. Bye.